Good morning, everyone. I am Dr. Piyush Singh, Counselor, Embassy of India, Bern. I welcome you all to this webinar. Today, we meet amidst the COVID 19 crisis. Each country is devising a strategy for dealing with this situation. The Government of India has announced a number of reforms for further increasing the ease of doing business in India and also for further integrating a self reliant India with the world. Today's webinar will focus on both the aspects of this investment as well as trade in the field of packaging. India and Switzerland are long-standing dynamic partners. The embassy has been running the MISSP program for further strengthening the linkages between the Indian and Swiss business ecosystems. I'm happy to note that in the last 6 months, we have been able to onboard 50 Swiss companies on this program. Today, the presenters will include the knowledge partner of MISSP, T&A Consulting, the legal and tax partner of MISSP, Rotel and Partner, and our guest speaker representing the prestigious Indian Institute of Packaging. With these words, I now invite the first speaker of the day, Mr. Tarun Gupta, partner, T&A Consulting, to please make his presentation on overview of the Indian economy amidst the COVID-19 crisis. Mr. Gupta, please take over the screen. It's all yours.
Good morning, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Just bear with me as we just move on to the slides. Okay, so thank you for taking time out for joining this webinar. We are in midst of a global challenge, and as one wise man said, every challenge presents an opportunity. And this webinar, we will talk about what are the opportunities which India presents, how can India be a preferred business partner for Switzerland, and the aim would be to give you a balanced view on India rather than the Bollywood version. What is changing, what has changed in India? And I'm aware in this season of webinars, there's a new term called death by webinar and the use of cliches like the new normal. I promise to not use these cliches, and this webinar will be different. So let's begin. This webinar, I have about 12 minutes, and this webinar is all about 12 alphabets. So how do I describe India? 4 letters to describe India, which is 4 Ds: democracy, demography, diversity, and disparity. Democracy, we are the world's largest democracy. Sometimes chaotic, that's okay. We have about 900 million people eligible to vote, and last elections about a year ago, we had 600 million people who voted, and the results came out in about 4 to 6 hours. Proud of our democracy. Demography, we are the youngest nation on the world. Median age of 29, and we have 72% of our population in the working age group. And we will have about 1/5 of the global labor workforce. Every month, we add the population of Switzerland to our labor pool. So demography. Diversity. India is more diverse than you move from northern to southern Europe. Diverse in terms of languages. We have 22 official languages. Diverse in terms of food habits. And finally, disparity. Yes, there is income disparity. Our top 1% have about 60% of the country's wealth. Top 10% have 77% of the country's wealth. We have the third largest number of billionaires. But also, there is disparity in terms of the economic development of various states. That disparity can be 10x, whereas in other countries, it's typically 4x from one state to the other. And one other distinguishing factor in India is our jump to services sector. There is no country in the world who's moved straight away from agrarian to services. We are proud of that. However, what we need to get right is our manufacturing sector. So how is our investment climate looking? What's our vision? Our vision is to be a 5 trillion economy. It took us 60 years to reach first trillion. It took us another 7.5 years to reach second trillion. And now, in the past, we have doubled our GDP in about 7.5 years. And now our target is to double it in 5 years. Is that ambitious? Oh, yes, very ambitious. Realistic? Yes. But with all the changes, reforms which needs to be in place, we need to achieve a real growth rate of 8%. And that would require a cycle of savings, investment, and exports. So how are we doing? Till now, over the last 70 years, India has got $600 billion of foreign direct investment, of which nearly half has come in the last 5 years. Of that, 90% came through the automatic route, no approvals required. That gives you an idea that how open the Indian economy is. But why such a big spurt in FDI? We are ranked as the third most preferred greenfield FDI investment in the world. Why? That brings me to the next slide, is our improvement in the ease of doing business. We have ranked consistently in the top 10 improver for third consecutive year. Everybody has heard of BRICS, but now the new term is MIVIT. Malaysia, Indonesia, Vietnam, India, and Thailand. These are the countries competing as worldwide companies move to diversify their supply chain, reduce their dependency on market. And India stands fairly favorably amongst all these markets. But what India has different amongst all the other MIVIT markets is that India has a large domestic market. So that brings me to the end of the first section, is India 4Ds: democracy, demography, diversity, and disparity. Now, what is India's opportunity? Again, four alphabets: CFID, consumption, formalization, infrastructure, and digitization. So let's move to the first C, the consumption. Well, India is a consumption-driven economy. Nearly 60% of our GDP comes from consumption. We are currently the sixth largest consumer market in the world, and we are expected to become the third largest consumer market after US and China in the next 10 years. Our whole domestic consumption is expected to increase fourfold to $6 trillion in 10 years. It's important to note in the pyramid that we have 10 million households above annual household income of $30,000 and another 25 million households between $15,000 to $30,000 annual household income. Now, that is the consuming class. A lot of numbers get bandied about Indian middle class. Actually, the Indian consuming classes, these 35 million households, are about 175 to 200 million people. It's not 1.3 billion, but a fairly substantial number. So consumption. The second alphabet to describe India opportunity is formalization. Now, what do I mean by formalization? India has 75 million enterprises, which is really 22 times the number of enterprises in the US, which is only 8 times our size of economy. Of this 75 million, actually only 10 million have any kind of tax registration. And only 5 million have any kind of tax and social security contribution. So really, we have 60 million enterprises who do not have any tax registration or social security registration. In fact, if you look at the graphs, we have 85% of our manufacturing firms in the organized sector with less than 50 employees. And we have a peculiar thing in India where we have large number of firms who remain small. So and we've defined them as dwarfs who remain at less than 100 employees even after a decade. Now that has to change. Instead of dwarfs, we need to create babies which grow up, organizations which grow up. In the similar time, US has 8 manufacturing firms, has 8 times the number of employees. Mexico, twice the number of employees. So what we need is to improve our productivity. We need to make sure that our companies grow. We need to improve our tax to GDP ratio. India's tax to GDP ratio is about 17% and only 5.8% of the population pays income taxes. This is low compared to OECD countries, which is 34%. This is low even compared to other emerging markets like Brazil is 34%, South Africa 27%, China. So we need formalization to increase our tax to GDP ratio so that our public investment can happen. And also, as part of formalization, a very important point is sanctity of contract. We have a new bankruptcy code. What it does is it allows companies to be liquidated, and it has never happened in India's history, where last year we had over 300 corporate debtors which were liquidated. Moving on, infrastructure. I spoke about public investment. This is where we are doing large value investments. To achieve a $5 trillion target, we need to double our annual infrastructure spend. Currently, our annual infrastructure spend is about $150 billion. We need to take it up to $300 billion annually. And 70% of that will come from public investment. And private sector remaining 30%. How are we doing it? Are we doing it with the scale and execution? Yes. Let me give you 2 or 3 examples. Number one, look at our roads. Our national highway length is about 140,000 kilometers. 30% has been built only in the last 5 years. We plan to build 60,000 kilometers of national highway in the next 5 years. So what we are saying, ladies and gentlemen, is we will double our whole national highway network in 10 years. We are building 30 kilometers of national highway every day. Similarly, railways. Our total tracks are about 68,000 kilometers. We have electrified 30,000. We will electrify all the remaining in the next 5 years. We are building a freight corridors. Today, we are 65% of our tracks is over 100% utilized. You look at our power sector, our solar capacity has jumped by 1,000 times since in the last 10 years. So really, we have shown scale and execution in infrastructure sector. And my last point on the whole India opportunity is digitization. In 70 years, we had 50 million credit cards. But now we have a game changer in terms of India stack. What we have is 1 billion people with biometrics, both retina and 10 fingerprints. We have 380 million new bank accounts. So in 70 years, we had 50 million credit card holders, but now one of the largest players of mobile wallet has 150 million active users. That's the scale with which we are doing. In fact, Google wrote to the Federal Reserve that we should have a similar model for America. The Bank of International Settlements said that India's digital infrastructure has the capability. And 2 factors have played a very important role is the mobile penetration. We have nearly 600 million mobile users, and our use of data has increased by 44 times in the last 5 years. So to recap, India opportunity is consumption, formalization, infrastructure, and digitization. That brings me to the last section of my presentation, which is reforms. And reforms can be described in 4 L's: law, liquidity, labor, and land. And what do I mean by law? We have a unified goods and service tax now, which has reduced the transit time by 25 to 30%. We want to reduce our cost of logistics from 14 to 10% of our GDP. We are improving the size of our warehouses from traditionally 5,000 square meters to 50,000 square meters. Then we are bringing up, India has repealed over 1,000 regulations in the last 5 years to reduce compliance cost. We want to offer predictability and transparency, reduce manual intervention and discretion. So all these are steps to improve transparency. Moving on, and you see this, the cost of compliance, how it has come down, whether documentary compliance and the time. A very important development on the tax rate. Our tax rates are now very competitive compared to the global average. In fact, for new manufacturing, it's about 17%. And we have signed, I mentioned predictability. We have signed 300 advanced pricing agreement to give assurance on our tax structure. That brings me to the next L, liquidity. Government has recently announced a package to offer collateral-free loans of over $40 billion. We have offered reduced lending rate. So we are not spending a stimulus, we are spending it sensibly and making sure we do not really go overboard on our fiscal deficit. That brings me to the next point on labor. It was considered a challenge, but now what we are doing is we are reforming our labor codes. From 44 labor codes, we are going to 4 labor codes. Labor code for wages, social security, occupational safety, and industrial relations. In fact, we see a very interesting trend wherein states are competing amongst each other to offer more competitive compliance and making sure that transparency there. And that brings me to my last L, which is land reforms. We are offering land reforms, and wherein states are offering online land directory, and we are also offering industrial parks through GIS platform. So if you see, for example, these are the 44 major industrial clusters, and we have nearly 2 million square meters of ready industrial space available for possession within 6 to 8 weeks. So I end my presentation by saying the 4 L's of the reforms: law, land, labor, and liquidity. So are we seeing impact of this? Yes. And my last slide gives you an idea of how foreign companies cutting across sectors have made their presence in India. We would love to see more Swiss flags. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for listening to me. That brings me to the end of my first presentation.
Thank you. Crisp, sharp, and comprehensive presentation. Let me request you to continue to be on the screen for your second presentation, which is on the overview and opportunities in the Indian packaging sector. So over to you again.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, and for listening to me again. And we have an industry speaker as one of our speakers later in the panel. So I'm talking about packaging. Couple of high-level details. I think our packaging consumption is very low. The annual spend on packaging is about 15 Swiss francs, whereas globally it's about 100 Swiss francs. Second, it's a very fragmented market. We have about 50% of the market is done by smaller players and 50% by large players, whereas worldwide 75% is by the top 20 players. So fragmented market. Third is the high growth rates. We expect packaging market to grow at about 20% annually for the next 5 years. Flexible packaging by about 25% and rigid packaging by about 15%. But if you look at the map, very interesting, we see the packaging industry presence clustered around certain areas. Why is that? I think my next slide answers that question. We have 3 or 4 sectors really disproportionately accounting for the packaging demand in India. Food processing sector, pharmaceutical sector, and of course, the personal home care. I'll briefly talk about some 3 sectors. Food processing, we love our food. Of course, as I mentioned in my earlier presentation, diversity of food. Our food processing sector is expected to double and cross $500 billion in the next 5 years. And there is change happening. It is the role of organized retail. You know, we have large number of mom and pop stores. So organized retail like the Migros or the Coops, they account for only 12.5% of the total retail share. And second is the online commerce. These are 2 segments which are driving premiumization of the consumer products. As a result, demand for packaging. In fact, online commerce grew in the last 5 years at a growth rate of nearly 70%, and the modern trade grew at roughly about 25%. So the second sector is pharmaceuticals. India has the largest number of US FDA approved plants outside of the US. We supply 40% of the US generics market. So clearly, that's an area, and a quarter of the all medicine sold in the UK. So that's another area which we see in growth. And one other area I would want to touch upon is the mobile phones. I spoke about mobile users. We have 350 million smartphones in India, and we have one second largest mobile manufacturing cluster. In fact, by 2025, we want to do nearly 1 billion handsets, out of which 6 million handsets we want to export. So that's the demand driving for packaging. Moving on, what is the type of material? Yes, flexible packaging is the most commonly used segment, and we use plastics. PET bottles are used, and now recyclable PET bottles are being used. But we are also seeing a trend of liquid cartons, which is mainly driven by the demand for juices and healthy soft drinks and healthy drinks which are coming in. We are also importers of packaging material. We import close to $500 million or 500 million CHF of packaging material annually. Another important trend is the concept of transit packaging, which are corrugated boxes. I mentioned about e-commerce, growth of e-commerce market being about $40 billion. But to give you an idea of the growth potential, our whole e-commerce market of $40 billion is less than the singles day sales in China, which is on November 11. That shows you the potential upside possible in the growth of this market. And we have had some very interesting innovations. In fact, one of the tea cafes started an innovative packaging which comprised insulated spouted pouch placed inside a corrugated carton shaped in the form of a kettle. Brilliant. Then we also have a proprietary vent boxes for pizza delivery, which kept fresh food, and this is a patent over 70 countries. But one of the things where we see opportunities for Swiss companies is on automation. Only 400 automated product lines are there. The remaining 60% is semi-automatic and manual line. So need for automation. That brings me to the next slide, which talks about opportunities where Switzerland is already playing a role in exporting of packaging machinery. We import packaging machinery from Germany, Italy, apart from Switzerland, but also from China and Taiwan. Some of the most common packaging machinery which we import are automatic form selling machines, Tetra Pak aseptic packaging machines, testing instruments, can making machinery, and recycling and reusing packaging products. We have some of the global players, ITW, Hasia, Mespac, have set up their facilities. Total market is about 1.6 billion CHF. So what are the new trends? One of the big new trends in India is about bioplastics, use of alternative materials. That's a big trend. And we are also working, the brands are also working on functionality of their packaging. How can it be reused, reclosability, ease of opening, ease of carrying and disposing. We are also looking at recyclability of small pouches, which are made of homogeneous material so that they can do recycling in single step. Synthetic paper is another recyclable replacement of paper, requiring non-tearability and longevity. Some of the other growth drivers for packaging are clearly that, for example, in pharma packaging, there is a new trend where they have to comply with tamper protection and sustainability. We are seeing some innovative features in pharma packaging like digital timers, alarms on pill bottles, dose monitoring, and innovative mechanized blister plaques. In fact, some of the two largest e-commerce players in India have announced that they would go 100% recycled plastics by 2021. They will use paper shreds, paper bags, carton waste shredded material, and they will use paper cushions, which may replace like air pillows and bubble wraps. So recyclability is the big theme as the growth driver. Moving on to some of the other opportunities we see are in the use of smart packaging, allowing interaction between the manufacturers and brand owners. We are seeing, for example, Tetra Pak has introduced smart packaging for dynamic QR codes for liquid packaging. One of the other areas where we need to do well is clearly on the post-production. I mentioned food processing. We have very low processing levels, less than 10%. So we really need to improve the packaging of our products. Dairy is one very good example where we already see Swiss presence there. And the other is biodegradable plastics, which are coming from renewable biomass sources other than maybe petroleum. And one of the largest food delivery companies has started packaging solutions which are 100% naturally biodegradable, largely consisting of sugarcane, bamboo, and palm leaf. So these are some of the new opportunities where innovation can play a role. What are the government policies and regulations? We have announced a complete ban of single-use plastics. We have announced new regulations wherein we will have specific packaging for 500 export items. Our Food and Safety Authority has defined codes for uh, 17 codes for food packaging. So these are growth drivers. Government has announced incentives where you have a 100% rebate on profits for 5 years if you set up new businesses for packaging of fruit and vegetable meat products. So really, these are some of the areas. But are we seeing foreign companies? Yes. The next slide gives you an idea in terms of what are the some of the foreign companies, including some Swiss company, Hoffman and Neopak, they do those tubes. We have an Austrian company which has set up eco range, not only for India, but also export from India. We have a German company who set up for pharma packaging. We have a Finnish company which has 17 manufacturing facilities. These are just a sample. We have Amcor, which has set up with one of the largest FMCG players in the world. And so how do we see opportunities for the Swiss companies? What are the potential go-to-market strategies? If you're looking for a packaging machinery, you could begin by way of exports. If you're a large packaging company, you may look to set up close to those clusters which I had described, food processing, pharma, or industrial clusters or personal care. And finally, I end with one of the big areas where we see interest from India is licensing. Swiss companies who may have worked on new technology, new innovative packaging material, there are a large number of Indian companies who are looking at licensing deals. With that, I bring to the end of my presentation. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for your patience.
Thank you, Mr. Tarun Gupta, for that wonderful presentation. I have already received a few questions for you, and we'll come back to you on the question answer session. Now, let us move to the next section of this webinar, which focuses on the legal and tax matters. I'll request Ms. Ritika Arora, Senior Associate Tollal & Partner, to please make a presentation on doing business in India, legal side. Thank you.
For a very insightful presentation. Let me just open our presentation as well. Now, of course, we've seen that there is a lot of potential in the packaging sector in India, but let us be on the right side of law. The endeavor here is to give you an overview of some of the key factors which anybody wanting to venture into India, and especially in the packaging sector, needs to be mindful of. On a positive note, packaging industry in India has been recognized as the 5th largest sector of the Indian economy. And we are seeing continued innovations in food packaging sector, etc., which of course was touched upon in the previous presentations as well. Now, when we are looking at opportunities for foreign entities in the Indian market, it is very important to be mindful that there are various business entry models that you have that the Indian law allows for. For example, there is a concept of a LISA office, a branch office, a project office, a private limited company, or a joint venture company. Now, the differences in these models is in terms of what is the allowed scope of activities that you can undertake, what is the kind of income that you can generate, the establishment procedure, reporting compliances, etc. So as a first step, this transaction structuring and having the right model in place is very critical. Then another key change that has happened under the foreign exchange laws in India very recently in the wake of COVID-19 is that all foreign investments from countries which share border with India will now require private government government approval. Now, this again is an impetus. This is an important step in the transaction structuring, and clarity should be in place before one wants to venture into the Indian market. With this, I would now, in the next slide, just walk you through some key laws which are governing the packaging of products in India. Of course, the labor law compliances, the other routine compliances will remain, but these are some critical key pointed legislations that one needs to be mindful of. So we have in place the Legal Metrology Act and the relevant rules, which enforces standards of weights and measures and also labeling standards and mandatory declarations. So this is a key legislation to be mindful of. Second is the Bureau of Indian Standards Act, read with the relevant rules, which prescribes for the process of standardization, marking, and quality certification of goods. There are some goods which require compulsory certification, and hence one needs to be wary of this particular legislation as well. We also have the Food Safety and Standards Act along with the relevant regulations which prescribe the content of packaging material which is to be used for food products, etc. Apart from that, there are also certain state-specific legislations which will need to be looked into as and when the location of the factory premises is determined. Now, with this, having said that, the Indian government is on a spree and there are many incentives and there are many key changes that are being done to facilitate ease of doing business. Now, in the wake of COVID-19, we do see an increased scope of opportunities in the packaging sector. For example, needless to say, the increased emphasis on having proper packaging in place is one thing that will definitely trigger the increase in demand for demand and growth of the packaging sector. Secondly, on a directly related note, e-commerce, the increase in sales via e-commerce would again increase the demand scope for packaging material. India, of course, is on a growth projection to be a global manufacturing hub, and that would again directly lead to increase in scope and ambit of the packaging sector in India. With this, now I would like to hand over to my tax colleague, who will walk you through the tax facets of the packaging sector in India.
Thank you, Ritika, for this very entertaining and informative legal update. Now, we'll cover the tax part of the basic overview and the framework which India has, and what all important things foreign investors need to know when they are deciding about foreign investment in India. Now, if we talk about the important part, one is that the compliances which are there in India, one need to know about the compliances which they have to make. And the second is the tax cost, which is related to their transaction. They need to determine first. So these are the two important things which every company should know and understand about India tax before investing into India. Now, India as a framework has a very structured tax law as any other country would have. There are many reforms which have been introduced, and there are many more in pipeline. So in future, we expect a very tax-friendly administration, and that's also a promise of a government to attract more and more investment into India. And they are on the verge of like almost fulfilling all the promises which they have made in like past 5 to 6 years. Now, if we talk about the legislative framework, India tax law can be divided into two parts primarily. One is the direct tax, which covers the taxation on the income of an individual or the legal entity. And the other is the indirect tax portion, which covers the tax on consumption, which the incidence on the company rather than on this, that's on the seller. Now, if we talk about the pillar for direct taxation, one is the Income Tax Act 1961, which is again appended by the income tax rules, which is provided, which provides the rules of determining the tax liability in India and contains all the administrative provisions of how your income would be assessed in India and what are the compliances which you need to make. Now, India also has double taxation avoidance agreement with more than 90 countries, including Switzerland, which provides that any company who has a multiple jurisdiction reach, so they provide for avoidance of double taxation or the jurisdictional double taxation scenario. So that's a very useful agreement, and one need to look into the provision of this agreement before investing into India. Now, India has its own transfer pricing regulation, which is very similar to the OECD transfer pricing guidelines. It also has country by country reporting mechanism, wherein you have to maintain a local file in India. Now, as far as digital taxation is concerned, this is something new which has been talked of a global OECD and G20 nation, and India has been a front runner in that. India introduced its digital taxation way back in 2016 when it covers only the online advertisement for the digital taxation. But in April 2020, they have extended this scope of equalization levy, and they have now introduced very similar concept of digital service tax introduced by the European Union Commission. But the scope, as far as Indian law is concerned, it's much wider in scope. And if you're planning for any investment in India, you need to be mindful of what are the provision and how it can impact on your business. Coming on to the recent direct tax update, which are relevant for any foreign investor. Now, Mr. Gupta has already talked about the reduced corporate tax rate. So any corporate or any foreign subsidiary in India can pay the tax at the rate of 22%. As compared to erstwhile 30%, and for manufacturing concern, it's as low as 15%. This makes India a very attractive investment destination. Now, from 1st April 2020, India has also abolished a concept of dividend distribution tax. For foreign investors, this means that now the dividend income which they receive from Indian company would be taxed in their hand. Thereby, they can avail the beneficial tax treaty rates as per the double taxation avoidance agreement, which is 10% under India-Switzerland tax treaty, whereas in the earlier regime, it was 20%. So there's a straight away 10% saving. Now, this reduced corporate tax rate with abolishment of dividend distribution tax, read with the participation exemption, which is there under the Switzerland domestic tax law, it substantially reduces your tax costs as far as your taxation in India, including the repatriation cost and the tax cost in Switzerland to repatriate that particular income is concerned. So the overall tax rate has been reduced substantially, and the impact could be as far as 15% on the total overall scenario. Now, further to increase the investment in India, the government has provided that interest on foreign currency loan would be taxed at as low as 5% as compared to normal 20% rate under the Indian domestic tax law. Now, any foreign investor is generally concerned about the tax regime in India, and they think that it's very litigative. So to avoid this litigation and protected litigation in India, Indian government provides option of advance ruling, wherein one can approach to the authority and ask for tax implication on their proposed transaction. Very similar to that, they have a concept of mutual agreement procedure in the tax treaty, which provides that two competent authority from both these nations can sit together and they can reconcile the differences highlighted by any taxpayer. Also, they have a concept of advanced pricing agreement, wherein they can predetermine the prices and avoid any transfer pricing litigation. Now, India also has this tax incentive for employment generation, and then one need to know and understand what benefit they can avail in India, and then decide on their margins to be kept in India. Now, coming on to the indirect tax update or regime, India imposes custom duty on the import of goods, and it also has a foreign trade policy that is generally to maximize the benefit of export of goods or services outside India, and to initiate this Make in India, promote this Make in India initiative, and that provides for remission of duties and export duty drawback benefits which are provided for any export of goods or services. Now, last but not the least, they have provided for goods and service tax, which is applicable from 1st July 2017. What government has done here is that they have unified all the state and central laws, and they have codified one central law which is applicable across India. Now, you don't have to see all the state laws before trying to find out the tax implication from any transaction. There is just one law. It provides clarity and ease of compliances to all the taxpayer. Also, under the GST regime, we have e-way bill, which facilitates ease of movement of good and speedier movement of good across border. Now, very similar to advance ruling under the income tax mechanism, they have a similar mechanism to obtain tax application under the GST regime. The only difference is that under the GST regime, the Commissioner of Income Tax level authority takes care of the ruling, and also there are a number of authority. So they promise the speedy resolution. So that was it from the tax portion of it. I'll hand over to Dr. Singh now.
Thank you, Gaurav, for the presentation. Let me now move on to the next speaker, who is a guest speaker and is joining us on a public holiday in India on the occasion of the Festival of Eid. So the speaker is Dr. Tanveer Alam. He is director of the prestigious Indian Institute of Packaging. May I please ask Dr. Tanveer Alam to come on the screen, sharing his video and make his presentation. Dr. Alam.
Thank you, Dr. Pius, giving this opportunity. And really, I'm very happy. And as you know, that Indian Institute of Packaging is an autonomous institute under the Ministry of Commerce and Industry, Government of India. And we have 6 regional centers, including Mumbai is our headquarters. Our core area of packaging, we have divided our activity in 4 different areas measure. One is research and development. We also give another department is training and education. We have heart of this institute is the testing and certification. Apart from this, we also organize international conferences and exhibition to give the platform to the packaging industry. Recently, for your knowledge sake, we have International Center of the Packaging, where we can invite to the international player. They can showcase their product, and we can also provide the platform to the business, especially in the field of the packaging. So it is very much relevant for especially the Switzerland and like other countries. Switzerland has also very good opportunity. They can come to the IP and where they can show their business avenues, and this is the platform recently we have started. Like all you are aware about that, packaging is one of the world's largest and diverse manufacturing sector. The value of global packaging industry is more than 850 billion market, which is growing at the rate of 3 to 4%. And there is huge potential in Asia Pacific, which is the 3rd largest packaging sector, which is growing at the rate of 5 to 6%. When we talk about the packaging distribution, geographical distribution, Asia Pacific market is more than 30% share. Now we can talk about that the Indian packaging is becoming preferred hub for the global packaging industry, which is 5th largest sector in Indian economy. Present market of Indian packaging industry is more than 72.5 billion US dollar, which is growing at the rate of 18%. And we hope with steady growth over the past years, even after the COVID-19 challenge, the industry is showing firm potential for the expansion, including the export market. Then we can talk about the rightly said our panelist, Mr. Tarun Singh. He has already discussed in length about the different packaging sector-wise growth. So, rightly said, per capita packaging consumption in India is very low, 10.5 kg compared to the US 109 kg, and Europe is 55 kg, and even the small country like Taiwan is 19 kg. So this low consumption level indicates the untapped potential in the packaging sector. And when we talk about the packaging industry, broadly we can categorize the packaging industry 2 parts. One is rigid packaging and another is flexible packaging industry. The packaging market consists of various packaging material, flexible, rigid, metal, glass, and printed cartons. The flexible packaging material shared with 22% of the total packaging market, followed by the rigid packaging material, which is 18% share. And however, in the case of the printed carton, is more than 17% share. So this you can see here the different sector of the share of the different packaging material in Indian market. And then flexible packaging material having more than 70% of the share of the total flexible packaging market, and followed by the share of the paper-based and aluminum foil-based packaging share is 21% and 9%. The value of flexible packaging market is more than 17.5 billion market, which is growing at the rate of 30%. The strong demand of the flexible packaging market has been arising from the food and beverage industry, personal care, and pharmaceutical industries. Then the plastic packaging has the highest share in this Indian packaging sector. The revenue, when we talk about in terms of the revenue share of the plastic packaging is more than 64%. However, the revenue share of the paper-based packaging is 18% of the total value of the packaging revenue. However, in the case of the sheer glass and metal packaging system, which is stagnant. The flexible packaging are mostly monolayer, multi-layer films, and multi-layer laminate sheets of the plastic, which mainly made of the polyethylene, PP, and PET and PVC based. Around 1/3 of the plastic packaging products used by the packaging industry in India is composed of polyethylene, and 29% of the product is polypropylene based. This is the share of the rigid packaging. The rigid packaging markets includes the material mix based of the hard plastic, glass, aluminum, tin, and cardboard. The value of the rigid plastic packaging market is more than 14.9 billion, and it is projected to reach 24 billion by 2024, which is growing at the rate of 7.5%. And the polyethylene PET material has the highest share among the material used in the rigid packaging system. The estimated share of the PET is more than 70%, followed by the PP 12% of the total rigid packaging system in the market. Now, when we talk about the beverage packaging industry user prospects, so as rightly said by Mr. Tarun Gupta, the food and beverage sector is highest demand of 59% of total share of the generated for the packaging. Food product share is more than 36%, while non-alcoholic beverages has 18%, and alcoholic beverages share of the packaging is 5% of the total demand of the food packaging industry. Now we have to talk about what is the potential of the export of packaging material. The share of the export of packaging material is more than 843.8 billion. During the year of 18-19, it was reported, which is witnessing the growth of around 15% from the estimated value of more than 734.4 million last year. The global export of the packaging material was more than 56.6 billion US market. The share of the export of packaging material is 1.4%. The USA, major export destination with more than 19.2% of the total share of the export packaging material. The other major 5 export destinations are the UK, 8.3%, UAE, 5.2%, and Netherlands is 3.8%, and Germany is 3%. The export of packaging material. The export basket comprises mainly of the flattened cans, printed sheets, components, prawn cork, lug, caps, plastic films, laminate, craft paper, paperboard, and packaging machinery, while the import mainly includes the tin plates, coating, and lining materials. The laminated and flexible packaging material, plates, and oven sets have been registering fastest growth in export from India. I would like to share when anything is being exported in the form of the commodity, the packaging is being exported from the country as an indirect. But in India, one of the biggest export material in form of is the jumbo bag, which is also known as flexible intermediate bulk container, which is more than 80% is being exported from the India. Now you can see here the different exporting countries, and similarly the potential to export of the now. What I would like to mention about that, Indian Institute of the Packaging is nodal agency to conduct the various performance tests on bulk package of hazardous goods to issue the UN certifications, which is mandatory. The export of packaging of dangerous goods from the India are due nearly 70% in last 10 years, mainly due to the superior quality of the testing and other aspects. Earlier, IP used to issue the 7,000 packaging certificate for dangerous goods. Now it has reached more than 12,000 certificates we are issuing. And then imports. When we talk about the imports, China has been the top importing countries, import source for the packaging material. Other major suppliers are the USA, 15%, Germany 5.5%, Italy 5.2%, and France 4.9%, and Japan 4%. So, now, what is the future demand and with this COVID-19? I would like to mention there will be the demand for the 3S packaging system, safe, secure, and sustainable packaging systems. And suddenly, after the COVID challenge, the safety of the packaging material became so important. And we have seen during the lockdown, this whole 60 days lockdown period, what we have seen, online e-commerce packaging has a huge demand. We need to focus those countries who want to do the business, they have to develop, there will be the demand for active packaging materials, especially antivirus packaging materials, antimicrobial packaging materials. Now there is a demand for, people are talking about the no packaging or zero touch packaging systems. And definitely there will be the demand for intelligent packaging system where we can track and trace your product during the whole supply chain. Apart from this, I would like to mention that automation, inline solution, aseptic packaging solution, robotic packaging, and packaging 4.0 will have a very big demand in the coming days. To say there's a potential, I visualize as a requirement of packaging professional worldwide. And this what we can see as a head of the packaging institution. This is the blessing in disguise we are looking this COVID-19. And finally, I would like to say, when there will be the demand for to fulfill this demand, we need packaging professionals. Right now, India, more than 20,000 packaging professionals are working in India. However, it is estimated that annually there is requirement of more than 35,000 of packaging professionals in India to fulfill such a demand, to fulfill the innovative demand, to fulfill the skilled manpower professionals in the field of the packaging. Upward packaging demand in the market required with sustainable job opportunity at entry level. So now even there is opportunities if any foreign countries, foreign institutions are interested, they can also invest in training field. They can also collaborate with Indian Institute of Packaging to provide better skilled manpower in the country. So thank you very much. This is all what I want to discuss about in the field of the packaging in this situation.
Thank you, Alam, for giving us a wonderful, comprehensive presentation on the Indian packaging industry and the institute. Now, let me quickly shift to the question-answer session today. And yes. I'll ask. I've received a number of questions. I'll be asking them in the sequence of presenters. So let me first pose the questions to the first presenter of the day, Mr. Tarun Gupta. The question is that I'll redraft it. So what are the procedures involved in setting up a packaging unit in a special economic zone in India, and if we should be looking at any specific special economic zone? I believe it means that are there special economic zones which have certain competence in terms of being there for packaging. Please.
That's a very good question, Dr. Singh, and I'll maintain my geographical neutrality so that we have all the states. So first of all, as I mentioned, most of the packaging units have come around industrial clusters. For example, if it's a food processing, they have come around about 40 odd food parks which are there because it's a cluster approach, all the suppliers are there. Now, we have seen that if it's an export-led industry, I personally had the opportunity to visit the special economic zone near southern Indian city of Chennai, which was there for the mobile handsets. So a lot of companies were there who were set up in that special economic zone. And there are policies wherein they could also supply, paying the requisite tariff on the domestic tariff area. So to answer your question, we have special economic zone throughout India, depending on the industry they are catering to. Mm-hmm. For example, for mobile handset, we have a new emerging cluster set up around the outskirts of New Delhi. Similarly, we have food processing cluster for exports, which have been set up around states of Gujarat and Maharashtra. So to answer my to the audience would be that first select your sector, then look at where in India is that cluster, and third is we have special economic zone spread throughout India around that cluster.
Okay, thank you. I think the answer is clear. There's one more question. I'll pose it to you. The question is that for a Swiss company intending to export to India in the field of plastics, what should be the way in which they should try to find the right partner in India?
And that's a question we get asked very often, and I would break it up. See, if a company is looking for a machinery distributor, we have large number of companies who are supplying to the end user segment, be it the pharma, and a lot of times this machinery tends to be specialized. Okay, now you spoke about plastics. Yes, India imports plastic packaging raw material, as Dr. Alam said, and I showed about $500 million worth. But what I reiterate for plastics, the new game is bioplastics. The new game is what is the technology to replace plastic bags, to replace new packaging for e-commerce. for delivery of food, bakery items, last mile delivery. And we have seen companies looking to license their technology. Some Swiss startups with proprietary technology licensing it and linking the royalty to the sales gained through the Indian company. And there are large number of Indian startups as well who could partner. Plus, India has established number of companies who are already catering to these end customers, and they may like to partner with such Swiss companies for technology.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Gupta. I think now I'll move on to the next presenter, Ms. Ritika Arora. Ritika, there's a question which I would like to pose to you, which says that labor legislation in India is very complex. Are there some simplification processes underway? Can you please come on the screen
Thank
and
you.
respond to this
So
question?
yes, Dr. Singh, we're guilty. We keep receiving this query time and again. But having said so, our Labour Minister recently announced that 2020 will be the year of reforms. What we are looking at is a unification and simplification approach where several, for over 44 labour legislations in India will be codified into 4 legislations. So that is something which is on the cards and is about to come anytime in the next 1 month or so probably. So with that, we can expect some relaxation, we can expect some sort of a uniformity and ease of doing business definitely. So that's there.
Okay, thank you, Ritika. Let me move on to the next presenter, Gaurav. Gaurav, there is a question on double taxation. And let me phrase it in this manner that what are the benefits of the double taxation avoidance agreement for Swiss investors, and the benefits under these agreements? Yeah, if you could respond to that.
Okay, so basically double taxation avoidance agreement, the whole idea is to avoid the double taxation faced by any multinational company who has presence in more than one jurisdiction. Just to give you a very small and easy example, if a Swiss entity has invested in India and they provide licenses in India, so India will tax that particular income which is received by a Switzerland entity on the source route, because the license is being used in India. So there is one taxation which is levied by India. Then the Switzerland, because this entity is a tax resident in Switzerland, they will also tax this income again in Switzerland. So to avoid such double taxation scenario, these kind of agreements are entered into between two contracting nations, such as India also has one with Switzerland. And if the particular income is taxed in both the country, then they provide for resolution of how then can particular nation can provide for a credit in the resident country, and how can we reduce this challenge of double taxation. So there are various streams which caters this in the double taxation avoidance agreement scenario, and they also provide for mutual agreement procedures and how to resolve any conflict between the tax implication levied by any Indian entity, Indian tax authority, and then Switzerland and Indian tax authority can sit together and reconcile the differences. So there are various provisions under that. So it is very useful, I would say, to avoid double taxation incident for any jurisdiction has multiple doing business in multiple jurisdictions.
Okay. Gaurav, there's one more question. Maybe you would like to respond to it. What are the auditing requirements in India for subsidiaries of foreign companies?
Okay, so basically it's very similar to what Switzerland law has. They have something called HB1 and HB2. Now HB1 is the statutory requirement of carrying out the auditing by their local chartered accountant or CPA in Switzerland. Similar law we have it in India, wherein under the company's law there is an Indian chartered accountant who will verify all the books of accounts and records of India, and that this has to be audited. Now apart from that, various tax laws in India also provide for different auditing requirements, like there is an income tax audit and there is a GST audit. If you surpass a specified threshold, you are required to carry out this audit in India. This is also done by the Indian local chartered accountant.
Okay, thank you, Gaurav. Now let me move on to the guest speaker. I think there is a question which focuses on the trends towards recycling of plastic packaging. So, Dr. Alam, may I request you to please come on the screen? Yeah, Dr. Alam, there's a question on, I mean, particularly given that, the institute, has, has a perspective of the industry as well as I'm sure of the academia. I mean, you are the one who are connecting both in India. So there were two questions. I'll club them into one. One, that what is the trend of towards recycling of plastic packaging, and the second, what do you see are the innovative practices being used in India in terms of packaging?
Okay, fine. One question. First of all, I would like to answer about that. India, now we have recycling plants, different recycling plants. One is industrial recycling, as well as there is even the Indian industry has also done innovative recycling plants where they can also recycle multi-layer plastic. Initially, it was a challenge. To MLP films are not being, it was considered it cannot be recycled. Now, indigenous industries are also, they have developed technology, and even with the foreign collaboration, they are claiming they can recycle even the multi-layer film plastics. And I would like to share about that. India is recycling PET bottles, especially more than 60%, which is somewhere it is more recycling. They are recycling more than what the other developed countries are doing. So in terms of the recycling, we are in very good positions, and even this gives the more opportunity. Parallel industry, there is opportunity for the parallel industry where the job opportunity will be more, and now we are looking for the recycling part have a future opportunity where the plastic can be recycled. And next important word, innovation in the field of the packaging. I would like to share that now India is exporting biodegradable film, which can be used even the fruits and vegetables, which maintain the freshness, which can extend the shelf life. The Indian industry, they are making the biodegradable films. There is huge potential. Now, the answer for especially there was a huge challenge for single-use plastics. Now, India is developing PLA-based packaging system. People are using from the agro-waste packaging material. Rightly, he said, Mr. Gupta said, that there is huge potential of this agro-waste material can be used as an alternative opportunity for the single-use plastics. Bagasse, sugarcane bagasse, even the wheat straw and rice straw and other agro-based material can be used as an alternative packaging material for single-use plastics. And definitely, India is doing in intelligent packaging systems. Several academic institutions as well as the industry collaboration, they are developing some intelligent packaging systems to make that indicator-based, like even the fruits and vegetable, meat and milk products. They have developed some intelligent tagging system where they can inform to the customer based on their change in the color, based on sensor-based mechanism. It has been developed. So we can say like that. India is also having numerous innovations done, but major challenge is the machinery part. We are poor in machinery part. We have to have develop more focus, and there is opportunity to have indigenous machinery which help for the automation, which can help to the packaging industry go for the automation. The cost-effective technology need to develop for the machine part.
Thank you, Mr. Mal. Thank you, Dr. Alam. With those words, on innovation and India coming together, let me also
one part I want to address, because regulation is very much important. Because we are also very much attached with the regulations, and we are the part for the BIS All Packaging Sectional Committee, Indian Institute of Packaging, as a chairman, as a director, the chairman. All regulations are coming through the Indian Institute of Packaging, although the BIS is the institution where they are making the standard for the packaging. But FSSAI recently, 2018 and last year 2019, FSSAI has made one committee, the committee on packaging, and where the packaging institute is playing a bigger role. So we have now more on safety concern. We are making standards for the safety concern, keeping the safety of the food packaging materials. Maybe in future there will be the label where it will be we have to declare, industry has to declare whether packaging is the safe or not. And third important part is the rPET. There is huge potential for the rPET standard because other countries are using rPET in the food items. We are in the process of to make Indian standards so that we can also in future we can allow the rPET in food industry.
Okay. Thank you.
That is the
thank you, Dr. Alam, for that answer. Now we come to the end of the webinar. We will be uploading all the presentations on the MISSP website, as well as we will also be releasing this webinar as a podcast and uploading on our website. I hope that we have been able to reinforce the idea that there are immense complementarities existing between Indian and Swiss business ecosystem, especially in the field of packaging today. We look forward to you joining us for further webinars and for contacting us for the MISSP program. Thank you so much. Have a good day. Thank you.